muslin cut out to the height of what I want it to be. I'm going to cut out the pieces, and I just want to show you guys, if you were to cut on fold, how it would look like. So what you would do is fold on the grain line, and you kind of just reference from your selvage edge, or if you look at the weaving, you can kind of see the grain direction. So however you want to do it, just make sure your center front is going to be on grain. Then to cut on fold, you would then place the line, the center front line, on the edge that's folded. Trace it all around and then cut it while it's folded, so that when you're done and you open it up, it's one big piece. So it'll kind of look like this. One big piece that has no seam allowance in the middle. But I'm gonna just do a half scale. I'm doing half scale, but I'm just gonna do half of the bodice. So half of the front and half of the back. So let's pretend it's like this. What you are going to be doing is just something that is gonna look like this. Half of the front and half of the back. And I mainly wanted to show you guys how to sew the darts and how to sew the what is called the shoulder seam to match up the notches. So I'm gonna go ahead and trace. Just make sure your grain line is accurate. And just, there's a lot of ways to trace onto the fabric. Some people like to pin the paper down and just cut with the fabric and the paper sandwiched together. I personally don't like to do that because I don't like cutting and then accidentally cutting my paper pattern. So I like to trace it by using a pencil. Pen, you could probably do pen, but then just know that it's probably gonna leave marks. And if it's very inky, you're gonna get ink everywhere. You can also use chalk. There's specific chalks that you can use for fabric. But I've always just used pencil. That's what's accessible and what's easiest. So I'm gonna trace the entire thing and mark all of my notches. So I have notches at all my dart legs, my bust, dart legs, my seam allowance, my seam allowance in my neckline, and my apex. So I have 2 punch holes where I moved out my dart ends. I'm gonna mark those. I'm not gonna mark my true apex. We don't need this point anymore. So I'm gonna poke a hole using your awl, not a pencil. Mark your punch hole, mark your punch hole, and then you'll have all of your markings. I will then use my ruler, trace out my darts. This is helpful for the sewing part. So if you did have ink, you did use pen, and you marked it, you risk it getting leaked onto the other side. So when I'm working and I'm drawing out, this is my wrong side, and this is actually my right side of the fabric. So let's see, so I did my marking, mark my notches, and then do my grain line. Always mark your grain line on your muslin fabric too. Okay, this is my front piece. I'm gonna move on to the back piece. I'm gonna do the same thing. Trace all around. And if you like to do it with pins, you then don't need to trace it. You would just pin it in place and cut it out.
Oops. I like to use weights, and we do have weights on the table so that you can weigh your paper pattern with, so it's not, it doesn't accidentally shift or something.
Notches, notches. I forgot to add notch for the center back hem allowance, seam allowance. So I'm just gonna roughly mark that it's there. And then my punch holes for my darts. Punch holes armhole notches. This will come in handy when you do your sleeve attachments. We don't need to worry about that, but we still need to mark it just to get in the habit of it. Mark my part legs. And I'm gonna go ahead and do my green line.
For the top bodice piece, because we're not cutting it on fold, are you adding any seam lines there, or just cutting it at where the fold would be?
Just cut it where the fold is at. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm gonna cut it out. When I cut my pieces, I like to go ahead and snip my notches, and I'll just do a tiny, like 1/4 of an inch notch that's within the seam allowance, within the stitch line. That is so that when I stitch the front and the back pieces, or like whatever seam I'm stitching together, I don't need to rely on the markings. I can just feel for the slit, the clipping, and I know that that is my notch. You don't want to clip too much, just like a small snip, 1/4 of an inch snip. If you had 2 layers, you would then put the layers on top of each other and do your, oh, that isn't, yep, that's my notch there. Snip, snip. Oh my gosh, that was terrible. I just cut into my piece. Be very careful when you're sewing, when you're cutting. I'm not sure why, but I do not have a feel for cutting. Like, my hands are not steady. I don't know why, because I feel like I could draw okay and do stuff regularly okay, but cutting is just...
Could be the scissors too, maybe you need a new different type of.
Yeah, this one doesn't have a grip around it, huh?
Yeah, maybe a longer.
Special kind of scissors. Okay. My notches.
Do you want us to sew one for each?
Nope, it'll just be, let's do the one with the armhole.
Okay.
The armhole, the first one. Mhm.
So only sewing 1/2.
Yes. So
Not
1/2 of the first one.
Well, yeah, I'm considering that a half. I don't know.
And I want you guys to sew, because I want you guys to learn how to sew a dart. I realized last quarter that the students didn't get a chance to sew the dart, so when they were doing their final project, they came across the dart and they didn't know how to do it. So I want you guys to learn how to do this one. Okay, I have everything cut out. I have all my notches marked, cut. I'm gonna head over to the sewing machine, and I'm gonna sew this tiny piece together.